And welcome inside to the opening drive. Nick Kosko, Mike Antosiewicz here with you every Monday morning. We're back here again today. Packed show today. Rutgers football, Rutgers wrestling. We'll actually dive into a little bit of Major League Baseball, talk about those MVP awards, dive into some college football, and of course the NFL. Big night for my Eagles last night, so I am pumped. I'm ready to go this morning. I didn't sleep too much last night, but it was a good 5-6 hours of sleep. I'm feeling just tremendous this morning. We'll have a special guest on later, Julian Jimenez, WRSU alum, Rutgers alum. He'll be joining us in the second half of the show to help us break down the Major League Baseball awards, and we'll get his takes on college football and the NFL. And I'm looking at highlights right now of the Eagles last night and the tremendous catch by Kenyon Barner in the first drive. Woo, man, I'm feeling good this morning. Mike, I don't think you watched that game last night, but I mean, if you're an Eagles fan, you gotta feel good.
I did watch part
of it.
I did watch part of it. You know what happened was as I was telling Nick before this, I went hunting this weekend, so I actually didn't see a lot of the Rutgers game. But at night, I got home and I did watch 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there of the game. So I saw a nice portion of it.
It was a sloppy first half.
Yeah, well, I was watching it when the Cowboys went up 9-6 over the Eagles. And I thought to myself, well, at least this should be a game. And next time I checked, it was Eagles a lot. It was right after the Alshon Jeffrey
two-point conversion. Oh, touchdown. Yeah, right.
Which was an amazing catch.
Oh, it was a.
I'm not sure if that was an actual touchdown though. I thought he was down.
I thought he was short. But Wentz threaded the needle, and that was a tremendous catch by Alshon Jeffrey. We'll break it down more later. But yeah, the Eagles won 37-9, and I'm feeling good. Top of the NFL, 9-1. Feels good to go into Thanksgiving weekend with another Eagles win. They play the Bears next week, so hopefully another win for them. All right, we'll start out, Mike, with Rutgers football, and I wanted to start out tonight. I didn't want to spend too much time on them because if you didn't know, Rutgers dropped a bad one, 41-0 to Indiana over the weekend, and I broke it a lot down on the Nightline Rutgers football postgame show. And at this point, Mike, I have come to the conclusion now that they can't make a bowl game, and you know my stance on this, Mike. You've heard it all season long that they should have redshirted Jonathan Lewis at quarterback, and they should not play him all season long because he just doesn't give you anything right now that warrants, good quarterback play right now. But at this point, Mike, I think you have to play him just because Ricino has done absolutely nothing since he came in. I know he got a couple wins, and he kind of shook up the quarterback position, but mostly Rutgers has won these games because of their run game and the defense. And from the 4 wins they have this year, or even the 3 they have in the Big Ten this year, they've won because of the run game and the defense. I mean, Gio Ricino has not lit the world on fire. Neither did Kyle Bowen. I know Jonathan Lewis hasn't done it either. But when he comes in now, he has to be the guy. You have to look at the future now because Bowen's not going to be here next year. You want to play some seniors on this weekend on Saturday because it is senior day, and it's the final game of the year. And Rutgers is not going to a bowl game. And they do have to try to be competitive against Michigan State. Michigan State's coming in, and it's going to be a tough game. But you have to play Jonathan Lewis. This is about the future now. You need to get guys in. You need to get Lewis in there. You need to utilize all the freshman wide receivers that you possibly can. Melton, Hayek, Wormley, Jabby. Use them all. Use Vokalek at tight end too. You can use the veterans you have, like Jerome Washington, who's going to be back next year, the seniors and Gus Edwards, Rob Martin, Josh Hicks to run the football. But other than that, and keep the defense the way it is. But on offense, you need to put the younger skill guys in there because David Mitchell's not coming back next year. He hasn't done much this year, despite the fact that I've praised him a lot this year. Janarian Grant is the biggest disappointment. I get he's been hurt all year, but he has done absolutely nothing this year. You need to play these young guys. I know it's senior day. You get those guys in, but this is about the future. You need to get those guys in there this Saturday, see what they can do against a tough Michigan State team. You let Jonathan Lewis sling it, whether how bad he looks, how good he looks, you take it for what it's worth. And then you go into the offseason and you work on things, and then you prepare Lewis to take over next year. So it's two-way quarterback competition between Lewis and Ricino, but you prepare Lewis to be the starter because he's the guy that you want in there. He's a bigger body than Ricino. He's got a much better arm. I know Lewis was wildly inaccurate on Saturday, but the dude is flicking his wrist and he's firing at 40 yards downfield. The dude is an arm. I never denied that. I just said he wasn't good yet. He still can't throw the football. But if he can become accurate, at least a little bit more accurate this week and play decent this weekend, I'm fine with that. And then obviously if he can become much more accurate and refine his skills over the offseason and be a pretty good quarterback as a sophomore next year, best case scenario right there. To me, this weekend is now all about the future and the young buck freshmen. I'm interested to hear your takes. I know you didn't watch the game much on Saturday, but it was disgustingly bad. It was awful. And it's time to look ahead to the future. Because they can't make a bowl game, you need to put the freshmen in there, and it starts with Jonathan Lewis, the quarterback. And Mike, I've been against it all year, but I've changed now.
Listen,
I've changed the last week of the season.
I understand your point.
Of course.
I think there's a bigger issue involved here, but
there's more issues. There are more issues.
You're talking about. I do agree with you that this game, it really doesn't matter how much Damon Mitchell plays. It's inconsequential. He's not going to be here. He's not going to be for the team next year. But I'm not sure if it's the right thing to do for this season and for moving forward for the future to make this the JV game and play everybody, all the young players, put Lewis out there and all the freshmen receivers.
Lewis,
because
you can start, but the other freshmen, you don't have to start. Just let them play more.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know what? And this is why Rutgers has had a successful year so far. Seriously, they've had a successful year so far.
They have. I said 4 or 6 wins. They got 4, and you know what? That's a lot better. They're tons better than last year.
They made a lot of progress. They had Big Ten wins, and progress. When I say progress, not from last year, within this very season there was progress.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Within this very season there was progress.
Absolutely.
And I always talk about momentum and starting with your best foot forward, and things carrying over. I think if you go out and I know you're not suggesting this, but start every young player and this team loses by 50 points, I think that would be terrible moving forward.
Because you don't want to do that.
You've had success this season. You've gained some. You've gained some confidence in this team, in this project, and now finish the season strong. Have a competitive performance, and let that be the tone moving into the offseason. Because if the tone is, we just lost by 50 points, we have to,
it's almost like you have to blow it up again.
It's like you have to blow it up again. Not exactly, but the feeling
you get the feeling,
there.
yes.
If this game is everything else has to be constructive. I keep on talking about things being constructive. This game also should be constructive, and yes,
it's a learning experience.
There should be young players playing more snaps than usual, but it should not be the JV game, so to speak.
No, it shouldn't be the JV game, and I do agree with you there. And I mean, I'll back off a little bit, but I think at least at quarterback, you have to start Jonathan Lewis. Are you at least in agreement with me right there? I think Jonathan Lewis has to start because he's shown much more arm talent in his limited throws, and I get he's wildly inaccurate, and no quarterback on this roster is any good right now. But Lewis, I think, has to start, and you surround him with the veterans and the young bucks. I think he has to start this weekend.
I have no issue with Lewis starting, but only if the coaching staff thinks it would be productive if he started. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes, and I agree. That was my point the entire season.
If they think this could be a learning experience for him, start him. But if they think that
he's overmatched,
then don't. Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's going to ultimately be what's going to happen. They should start Lewis. I mean, I really think he should be thrown out there and see what he can do. This is the first time I've said it all season, but as you said, Mike, if the coaching staff still believes that he's not ready and he just might get destroyed out there by Michigan State, you don't want to shatter the kid's confidence and you don't want to throw him out there. Maybe throw him in maybe if they're getting killed, then you throw him out there for the entire second half, a la Ohio State, and then see what he can do with garbage time and just get him some more reps. That's fine too, but he has to play a lot on Saturday. He really does. And I'm not just talking about those little sub packages he comes in where he just runs the football. No, he needs to go in there and finish the game, or at least start and finish the game. How he did against Indiana.
Yeah, they need to give him actual drives. That's a different type
He got actual drives against Indiana, but obviously the game was way out of reach. Yeah, of course.
Like live, real, meaningful drives.
Exactly.
In situations that count.
So that's why I mean, like, maybe they should start him at this point.
Again, I'm not
of course.
That, but I just want to say this game, because
it means a lot for next year, whether you realize it or not.
There is reception in the woods. And I was, checking the Twitter feed of all the Rutgers reporters as they were,
It was a bad game on Saturday. I'm glad you didn't watch.
Yeah,
I was in the studio for 7 hours because of the lightning delay.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I would have freaked out. But so I'm checking every 50 minutes the reports and everything. And,
right.
And it struck me. I think it was this past week, last Monday, that a report was it on the Banks? I forget. But one Rutgers beat reporter wrote that Rutgers is halfway to being the team it wants to be.
I don't know who said that, but explain.
But so no, the article is just like, listen, Rutgers has had. We should be optimistic. Rutgers has had has improved much this season. They're already at 4 wins. They want to be a perennial bowl team. They want to be a perennial bowl contender. Right now, they're already on the edge of being that. They need to get better, and then they're going to be on that line. Right? They've already, of all the distance they had to traverse to get to where they wanted to be, they've probably already made it halfway.
Right.
And I thought that was premature, and this game showed me that it was, because if I look through this season and review the things that happened this season,
kind of gave my game.
When you look at the 4 victories, outside of one victory, which was the first victory of the year, which was a joke.
No, of course, it's 3 solid wins. Over the season.
It's solid wins, but I think in each of those games, you can't say that Rutgers won because
it was a perfect game.
Because it was a perfect game, or they outplayed the other team. The other teams in those games, right?
Namely Purdue. I'm going to get to go to your point, Mike. Purdue was one of those games where, and I explained this on Saturday night as well. Rutgers has won these football. Throw Morgan State out the window, because that's a JV game. Purdue, Maryland, and Illinois. Illinois, it was all the run game, and the defense gave up a handful of points too. I said they did not win any of these games by the quarterback play. It was all
by the quarterback play, but I just think in terms of Illinois is different. Rutgers is just better talented.
Of course, but the Purdue game, they won 14-12. That was all defense. That was run game, and that was one big play, the Rashid with the Blackshear touchdown.
So it wasn't like they went out there and
they were terrible that game.
They dominated 70% of the snaps.
And
or something
Maryland, I would say, is their most solid win the entire season, because it was at home. It was against Maryland, and I get Maryland was down to their 3rd and 4th string quarterbacks in that game. But Maryland, to me, was that most solid win of the season.
No, it was
because it was at home, and they played a more complete game in that one than they did in any of their other wins. Because you saw a little bit from Rashid, whether he lit up the stat sheet or not. He played a better game. I believe he didn't turn the ball over. I think the one time was just a throwaway pass at the end of the half, but he didn't turn the ball over. They ran the ball really well. They had some big plays. They played some great defense. Maryland was their most complete win. But any of those 4 wins, Mike, you're not going to say, "Wow, that's a convincing great win," and they're going to be on their way.
So, ostensibly, a team that's a perennial bowl contender that year in and year out could feasibly compete for bowl qualification, for bowl eligibility, is a team that goes out, has some wins like against Morgan State, against lower quality opponents, but then goes out and also outplays teams. And I think if you look at Rutgers' victories, that's how the Illinois game, and Maryland maybe count for this too, but they really haven't outplayed anybody this year. They
should not outplay Purdue. Purdue probably should have won that game.
They haven't done that yet, and that's why I'm saying, no, it's not just the win column, right? You got the 4.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
It's the way you win, and especially, so that was point 1, that it's the way this team wins, that they can't go, the way this team wins and the way this team loses suggests that, no, they're probably a third of the way, not halfway. The second point is, and this tags off the first, is that this offense is not even close to being halfway. It's not even close to being a third of the way towards an offense that is that is on a perennial bowl contending
that
team.
Could help you win football games.
And that's the reason why this team hasn't gone out and outplayed anybody this year. Has relied on other teams making mistakes, and this team has capitalized on a few of those mistakes this year. But this is why this team doesn't go out and outplay people, because this offense is, I think, like 2 years. Or maybe only 1. We shall see, because it's young talent. But
of course,
right now, this offense in terms of development is like 1.5, 2 years behind where this defense is, and that's why this team improved. I think there's every reason to be optimistic, but at the end of the day, they're not halfway there. Ash needs an extension. I know that has been talked about. He needs an extension because there's a trajectory now. He put this team on a trajectory, but it's a long trajectory.
Of course, it's a long process to build this team.
And that's why let's fight against this notion now that they're halfway there. They're not halfway there. Give Ash some time and let the time work itself out.
Without a doubt, yeah. And I just might to kind of wrap that all up. That they are on a trajectory. There's a chance now where they can improve every year now. And they made progress this year. The win column showed progress. The defense showed tremendous progress. Special teams showed progress. Offense still kind of stuck in neutral. But I think this means you need to, I know Jerry Kill, we've criticized him all year, but you need to give him more time, and you need him to let him develop these young bucks, because they're still freshmen, and obviously Jerry Kill and Chris Hatch decided to be a lot more conservative this year with a younger team. But there has been progress this year, and I think you can be optimistic. And plus, there's still one more game left to evaluate this team. All right, we're going to take a quick break. On the other side, we'll have some Rutgers wrestling talk. They went to the Army Invitational this weekend, and we had some good performances by some of the wrestlers, and some of the backups got some reps as well. So we'll talk and break that down, all about Rutgers wrestling in our next segment right after this break. Make sure to keep it locked. You're listening to The Opening Drive here on 88.7 WRSU FM and online at WRSU.org. Welcome back inside The Opening Drive. Nick Kosko, Mike Antosiewicz, 8:18 right now. Take up to 9 o'clock. Talk a little Rutgers wrestling right now. And we'll break it down in the second half of the show with our special guest, Julian Jimenez, some MLB, college football, and, of course, the NFL to wrap up a busy show this morning. So, Mike, I was texting you throughout the weekend, and now I understand why you weren't answering me. I mean, usually you're pretty slow with texting anyway, but now I know why you weren't answering me, because you were out in the woods hunting and looking for some dough. But Rutgers Wrestling, they had a good weekend. I don't know if you saw it, but I obviously try to keep you up to date as much as I could.
Oh, no, I looked. Trust me, I looked through everything.
I would hope you were looking, because it was a good weekend for them, and if we take a look,
and a clarifying weekend in some ways.
It was, and we'll get into that. So, really, the big things are Nick Suriano just blew by the competition, easily got first place in his weight class. There was a lot of guys who wrestled this weekend, multiple weight classes. No Ashnault, no Gravina, no John Vanbro, no Richie Lewis. He's out in Poland. I believe this is the weekend now where he's going to wrestle for a world title at the U23 Freestyle Championships. I believe it's this weekend or next weekend that he wrestles. I'm pretty sure it's this weekend.
It is this weekend.
It is this weekend. I think he wrestles on Saturday or Sunday, and we'll see if Richie Lewis can bring home a world title back to the United States. So, Mike, quickly out of the way, Nick Suriano, easy. He just blew by everybody, as I mentioned. Pins, techs, whatever you want to call it. Did everything he could. Got first place. He's still unbeaten. What we need to talk about today, and also Kevin Mulligan at 197 finished third. Razan Gross got second. At heavyweight, so those are some of the big finishers. Mike Van Brill, he lost. I don't know if you saw. He lost to a kid from Lockhaven. He got teched. That might be the kid he wrestles December 1st.
But what I don't understand is that Lockhaven kid's not even ranked.
It might have been just a bad match. Who knows?
You don't get teched in a bad match. You maybe get a pin. Tech?
I guess maybe he was just really off his game. I don't know what was going on in that match.
Well, he came back to take third, so
I really don't know. Maybe it was a mental. Maybe it was a mental.
After
he's brain fart or something.
Just beaten last week in upstate New York. Actually, this was in upstate New York too. This weekend too, but last week when they had the journeyman duels, he beat a ranked wrestler.
Yeah, he won 2 matches convincingly. So I don't know what happened to Mike Van Brill, but he finished third. But Mike, the biggest story,
and the kid Mulligan lost to wasn't ranked either.
No, it was just it was just some of these matches are weird, Mike. But some of these guys are wrestling unattached, and you don't know what you're getting out of them, and you won't see them again because they're just redshirting, and I don't know what they're doing. But the big story, Mike, and I was texting you, and I told you, and I kept you up to date on this all weekend. At 174, Jordan Pagano and Joe Grello were both in that same weight class, and they happened to meet each other in the finals. And
that's not an accident.
No, it's not an accident.
This tournament was going to be the wrestle-off.
Yeah, because you know how Goodell likes to do wrestle-offs, and he mentioned it to us last year how he prefers to do wrestle-offs. He wants to let their actual wrestling do the talking, put these guys in tournament situations, and see where it goes from there. Joe Grello beats Jordan Pagano 4-3 in the finals. And Grello's wins included a pin, where'd it go? Included pin. I'm trying to look at the results here. Well, either way, he pinned the Lockhaven kid, which who knows? He might even face him on next week or their next dual meet, which is December 1st on a Friday at Lockhaven. My point is here: Joe Grello beat Jordan Pagano, at this point, Mike, it's got to be Joe Grello moving forward at 174. I can't even imagine a situation now where Goodell says, okay, Pagano, go back out there at 174. You're still my starter. Grello ran the table. He has not lost yet. I guess he's healthy at 174, and he beat Jordan Pagano, who was 0-3 before this tournament. This has to be Grello's weight class moving forward.
Well, I wouldn't say we forgot about Grello at one point, but the fact
he was always there.
Last year, the real talking point was at 197 because you had two blue chip prospects as
Correnti and Mulligan,
Correnti and Mulligan, and we really didn't know what to do. Not actually what to do. We really didn't know what to make of it at first, and then we finally realized, okay, this is the plan. He's going to redshirt Mulligan,
and we predicted the plan quite well.
And Correnti's going to wrestle this year, then he's going to redshirt next year. Mulligan's going to come in, so we figured that out. But as the season went forward, we were really keeping track on Kevin Mulligan. We were seeing that he was going to these tournaments. He was wrestling unattached.
He was dominating last year,
and he was dominating. He had a really good year. Grello had injuries.
I believe he was 3-2 last year, and then he was out for the rest of the season with an injury.
He was 3-2. He did, he had a good start. He was above 500, but then he had injuries, and then coming into this season at media day,
he was still recovering.
He didn't wrestle during WrestleOffs because he had surgery. I think 2 weeks before that, and he still wasn't cleared to wrestle.
It's a quick heal from surgery.
So it was a very minor surgery, but I don't ever really took into account some of the ramifications.
He was a really good recruit when he came in.
Some of the ramifications of a healthy Grello being in the lineup. I don't think we ever actually processed that. Now,
it was Mike, not to cut you off here, but he came in at 165 when he first came in as a recruit.
And think of it this way, he was
a 70-pounder in high school.
He was a 70-pounder in high school, but he was a two-time state champion.
Yeah, he's a very, very good wrestler.
Pagano never was a state champion. In fact, Pagano...
And they were teammates. And Pagano went to Penn State and transferred here.
I forget what Pagano even... I know he placed...
I think he finished third or fifth.
I think fifth. I mean, he was a high-place finisher in Jersey.
It's not bad, obviously.
No, it's not bad at all. I mean, look at John Van Bro. John Van Bro never won a state championship.
Look at him.
And he's a very good wrestler now. Obviously, he has room to improve, but... we never really took into account. Now we're here. We have to take into account, and I think if you just look at resumes, Grello has a more impressive resume in terms of potential, where his trajectory is. He's beaten ranked wrestlers before Pagano. Before he came in as a varsity wrestler last year, he wrestled at a few tournaments, and he beat ranked wrestlers then.
Looked pretty good.
And then he got the nod at Michigan, and then he beat the Lehigh kid. Who was ranked 6th and just
fourth.
beat...
He was 4th at the time.
Yeah, but now this year he's ranked 6th and he just beat the 3rd kid in the country.
Yeah, no,
so that kid now is probably going to be like 2 or something.
Yeah,
like
so
that.
he's a stud.
He's an absolute stud. But Grello has the potential. He was a better wrestler in high school than Pagano was. He was a 2-time state champion. He's a guy that has thrived under the spotlight better. He was a state champion his junior year, and then he came back and repeated his senior year. Being one of the best wrestlers on Bergen Catholic, which is one of the most visible wrestling programs, not only in the state of New Jersey...
In the country.
Pagano has talked about this before, how the spotlight...
He doesn't do well with the spotlight.
The spotlight took him off his game last year at crucial points, namely the Big Ten tournament and the national tournament. Right? That spotlight, I'm not sure you could say frustrated him. Maybe frustrated isn't the right word, because I do think he was happy about it, but I do think it put him into a place that he never actually had to. He never actually had to be before, even in high school, even wrestling in Bergen Catholic. In terms of spotlight, now this team is a nationally recognized program.
Yes,
you're going to be in the spotlight. Grello, just if you look at his wrestling career, is definitely better suited for that type of situation. Better suited certainly than Jordan Pagano. And he has more potential. This was coming. I feel bad for Pagano because, as I said, throughout the offseason.
He worked hard. And
the
he looked
guy
good.
looks physically different. He looks like he looks much better shape than last year. Not that last year looked bad, but he looks stronger this year. He looks better. And with the return of Nick Ravina next year, he's at a spot. He doesn't have a spot.
You almost don't know where he fits at this point.
Well, he doesn't fit. That's what his fit is.
Well, that's what I mean. He doesn't fit. He might be a bench guy now at this point. So Mike, I know.
But listen,
go ahead.
The good thing for not honestly, the good thing for him though is, but the good thing for the team. That's what I want to say. The good thing for the team is that
depth is really good.
Yeah, exactly. Grello does have a tendency to get injured. He's been injured throughout his whole career here. He's had a hard time staying healthy. Now, if you're going from Grello to Pagano as your backup, that's who started the season as a ranked wrestler.
It could be a lot worse.
They're in a very good situation. They're in a very good situation, team, in terms of depth and just access.
Yeah, my biggest thing about Grello, Mike, we talked about him last year when he came in with the class with Mulligan. They were team. I mean, those were the two best recruits they got last year, were Kevin Mulligan and Joe Grello. And obviously, we mentioned that Grello got hurt last season. It was only 3-2, and we were trying to make our projections for the lineups for years to come with some of these young guys that are going to be here for a while. And we tried to see where Grello fits in the lineup, and I figured, okay, he's going to be a 65, 74-pounder, but he came in at 65. Last year, it was a little weird, just
because he really should have been 65 because Rutgers did not have a 65.
Yeah, you can make Mike, you can really make the argument that, excuse me, that he would have been the starter at 65 last year had he not gotten hurt, because at one point, Goodell was going around between three different guys at 165. It was Willie Scott, Anthony Buffumi, and, oh, man, who else was there last year?
I was going to say Scott Buffumi.
It was one other guy that was there.
I have no clue.
John Van Brill was 157 last year due to the injury to Richie Lewis. So, I mean, there was somebody else now. I can't think of it. But regardless, at some point, Goodell was like, all right, I'm just going to throw out whoever at this point because we don't know what we're going to get from 65. And at that point, you could have been saying, okay, Grello, you're healthy. We're going to make you the starter, and we'll see how you do because you're one of our better prospects on this team. So it was tough not seeing him last year, but now that he's fully healthy, and he looks pretty good, so far, to say the least. I'm going to pull up his stats from this year. He is, oh boy, I'm trying to look for his stats. Or we'll find him. But Grello, I mean, he ran the table at this tournament, Mike. He looks good. And I think at this point, you can't say anything about it. He's the guy. And these stats aren't updated. He's the guy at this point. If he starts to struggle mightily, then maybe you think of another wrestle off between him and Pagano. I can't say put Willie Scott back down to 74 because he's struggled in the varsity spotlight. But it's Grello's spot now. If you're Coach Goodell, you can't make an argument now for Pagano to start. He was 0-3. He dropped out of the rankings. They both made the finals. I think Goodell and Army set this up purposely for that bracket to see if these guys could run the table and meet each other in the finals and see who comes out on top. And Grello won the grind. He's got to be your guy. If Goodell throws out Pagano at 174 against Lock Haven on December 1st, you could say I'll be pleasantly shocked. But to me, Mike, it has to be Grello. And if Grello wrestles well, Mike, you might see his confidence build. And when we said there's a lot of potential there, this guy could be a force in the lineup as the season progresses.
Yeah, but also at the same time, there's the possibility that he doesn't entirely succeed, and the Pagano's chasing him in on his tail.
Then you're back to square one. Then you're back to Pagano.
I'm not ruling out Pagano for the rest of this year.
No, but
A, because of the Grello injuries, and B, because the fact of the matter is,
Grello's still young.
He did not win a fluke match against Price of Lehigh. He went out and dominated that kid.
He did.
The problem is he is and I think it's mostly mental of
the
him.
Consistency issues.
Not only consistency, he can't get to that point. Something happened, something clicked that day, and it doesn't seem like he could click. He could make things click.
He can't do that every single time. It seems.
But if he could now, and this is why it's interesting, because now he's been in this pressure situation. He did not finish the year off strong last year, right? Now he had this whole off season. He improved this whole off season, but with all of the disappointment at the end of last season festering inside of him, and that probably drove him to improve physically. But still, it didn't lend itself to being a more, to a better live wrestler, better in-match wrestler. That didn't happen yet.
No, I totally agree with you.
This all has happened under the pressure of compensating for what happened in the last year. Now the cat's out of the bag. right? Things did not click.
I think he's just letting it eat him alive at this point.
Right? But my point is, the stress has been building. It's been under the surface. Now it's at the surface. Now he could finally respond to it. And from a position where he's actually going to be able to take a step back, not be in the varsity squad, dedicate more time.
It puts it in perspective, right? And he might be able to fine-tune his craft. And you never know what happens in the line moving forward.
So this might be an actual...
it could be a blessing in disguise for him.
A blessing in disguise. But unfortunately, you don't want to see Grello go out there and
not be good.
And not be good.
This next match against Lock Haven is big for Grello. There's some Rutgers should roll over Lock Haven, but there's a couple tough matches in there that are going to be very interesting to watch. So we'll break all that down when it comes to that time. And then, of course, we have Iowa December 8th here on 88.7, where Mike and I will have the call at 8 p.m. at the Rack. It's going to be rocking. We're excited for that one. We're going to take a quick break. On the other side, we'll welcome in our special guest, Julian Jimenez, as he makes his return to the Banks and to the WRSU Studios. We'll break down some MLB, college football, and, of course, the NFL. So make sure you keep it locked. You're listening to The Opening Drive here on 88.7 WRSU FM and online at WRSU.org. Welcome back inside to The Opening Drive. Nick Kosko, Mike Antosiewicz with you. 8:35, take you up to 9 o'clock. Talk a little MVP awards for Major League Baseball, college football, and, of course, the NFL to wrap up today's show. Let's bring him on now. Joining me and Mike, our good buddy, Julian Jimenez, makes his return to WRSU. How are you, bud?
Hey, how's it going, man? Very, very happy to be here. It's been a while.
It has been a while. It's cold out here. What was it, a long commute this morning?
Yeah, I hit a little bit of traffic on 287.
That's all right. That's all right. You made it here, and that's all that counts. Julie and I go back to my freshman year. We met each other in a big lecture hall, intro to media.
Yes.
And the friendship blossomed from there. So we're glad to have him back in here in studio. And, Julian, we'll just jump right into it, and we'll get your takes on all these topics here this morning. Apologies for being off camera over there, because my phone does not stretch around the room for a 360-degree view. But you can obviously catch this. Everybody, you can catch us on YouTube afterwards when I upload this. And even if you don't want to look at our faces, you can at least listen to the audio as I put it up on YouTube in a couple hours. All right, so Julian, we'll jump right into it. MVP awards, Giancarlo Stanton for the NL, and wow, Jose Altuve for the American League. I almost forgot already. What's your take on? I think they got it right. I think you could have made a good case for Aaron Judge, but in my mind, we'll start with the American League, by the way. Judge, to me, had just a terrible stretch in July and August, and I think that's why he did not get it. Altuve was just more consistent, and I know you're not supposed to let the postseason influence you, but I think it always happens every year. Altuve was a huge part of them winning the World Series. Did they get it right? And then what about your boy Judge? I would have given him a couple votes, but I don't think he should have won. I think they got it right by getting Altuve the MVP.
Yeah, I think all around, no one can really argue that it was the wrong decision. I think that Altuve definitely deserves it. Congrats to him. I think Judge doing what he did was remarkable. Like once in a kind of lifetime kind of thing, almost. Rookie of the year for sure. That was a lock.
He had a fantastic year.
You knew he was going to win that, but coming into the playoffs and the playoff race down in September, he got hot again. And even with that hot stretch, the Yankees still made it as a wild card. So I think that may have, in a way, hurt him to win the MVP award. And, if he had maybe influenced them to win the division or something like that, that probably could have maybe given him the edge.
So do you think if the Yankees had caught the Red Sox this season and they had won the division, he would have gotten more MVP love?
I think so. I guess what I'm trying to say is that even with the hot stretch again, like if he had, if his performance helped the Yankees win the division, like that definitely could have influenced the writers to maybe say, okay, Judge probably deserves this. They probably would have not gone this far without Judge. But even without that hot stretch, the Yankees were still going to be a wild card team. Am I right?
Right.
They were in the race.
I agree with you there. And like I said, I think the voters got it right, and I'm putting my Yankee hatred bias aside. But no, Judge had a fantastic season. I would have given him a few nods towards the MVP, but as you said, they didn't win the division. And I mean, I know he carried him through the playoffs, but Altuve was just so consistent all season long. And, he was a big part in the Astros winning over 100 games and ultimately winning the World Series after a great regular season. In the National League, I think Stanton was the obvious choice. I get the Marlins and they didn't even make the playoffs. Would you have given any first-place votes to anybody other than Stanton?
I think Joey Votto deserved a lot of love. I think I heard him.
Even though the Reds were even worse than the team this year.
Yeah, exactly. Joey Votto is just he's out of this world. You look at his numbers. I know that playing for last place team definitely hurts him, but even with given that, I think he deserved a lot of votes there. Put him in another team, and he's probably like a front runner every year, really, to be honest. But I'm a little surprised that Goldschmidt didn't get any.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I feel like he wasn't talked about at all for this MVP race. Or at least he was in the race, but they almost did more MVP votes, obviously, to Stanton, and even probably gave more love to Joey Votto.
Him. I thought that maybe Goldschmidt would have gotten more votes, seeing that they actually made the playoffs. And I don't think without his performance, even with the JD Martinez trade in July, I think that they still probably would have not made the playoffs without his performance.
Right.
And then this one's sort of a stretch. Charlie Blackmon.
Nobody talks about him at all. I get you're going to say his numbers might be skewed because he had a great home season too, and his average was a little bit lower on the road, but I'm pretty sure his home runs were pretty much split even between home and away. So but he had a great season. He was a big part of the Rockies making the playoffs too.
Yeah, and he's doing it from the leadoff spot. You don't hear about that nowadays. So I feel like that was sort of a snub, and I get that playing in Coors Field hurts you, but I think that one
stats
of these,
are stats.
Yeah, one of these days, maybe one of these seasons, we'll see a Rocky get some love.
Last baseball question for you, then we'll move on to college football, and we'll have everybody talk about this. Stanton, does he get traded, and where does he go?
Oh man, it's just a coin toss.
I would love it to come to Boston, but as much as I would love that, I don't think that's going to happen. And if he goes anywhere, I know there was reports out there that they said he does not prefer the Cardinals or the Red Sox. He might go to the Dodgers, might go to the Giants. The Yankees are always somehow in the mix. But do you think Jeter, who's now in the front office for the Marlins, do you think he ultimately trades him? And do you think what's your potential landing spot for Stanton?
I think there's definitely interest to trade him, to move him. I think they want to, there's new management coming in.
It's a lot of money for him, too.
So there's definitely a sense of new direction, if you want to call it that,
right.
and sort of start over. I think it's going to be a little hard to move him just because he's so much money backloaded in that contract. And even with given that, there's going to be so much in demand and so much in return asked for. So I think that a potential landing spot are always the high paying clubs. You want to say Boston, you want to say LA.
Yeah. I feel like those clubs could always just pay the money and maybe trade one or two players, but they're saying we're taking on the entire contract, so just give us a break on the players.
Yeah, another potential spot that I don't think is getting really talked about is Philly. Down in
I heard rumblings of that back in the summer. Actually, it was very interesting to see that. The Phillies have a lot of money, and if you add a power bat to that lineup or a young lineup, I think the Phillies could be good instantaneously almost.
Yeah. Imagine him hitting that. It would be like a sandbox, really, like a little league field for him.
Exactly. Yeah, no, without a doubt. All right, we'll move on to college football then. Thank you, Julian, for your great takes on baseball. I know you're a big baseball guru. All right, Mike, we'll bring you back in now.
Oh, thank you.
Of course. So we have college football here. And the rankings to me, Julian, I don't know how much you've paid attention to college football this season, but to me, last week was just kind of like it's that meh week, and then now this week is the rivalry week. You get all the big games, Auburn, Alabama, Michigan, Ohio State. You get all these big games. And right now, I believe the playoffs are going to stay the same because everybody won.
Yeah, there's going to be no change.
So I'm going to ask you this. Do you think, who are your 4 playoff teams right now? Right now, if I can pull them up, the computer, the current rankings, where are they? Come on, give me those. There we go. All right, so Bama 1, Clemson 2, Miami 3, Oklahoma 4, Wisconsin 5, Auburn 6. Those are last week's rankings. Do you see any of these? Do you see them staying the same? Who do you think is going to win between Miami and Clemson? Do you think Bama and Auburn could be a big game? What's your take on the college football playoff rankings right now? Yeah, Julian, I'm asking you. Sorry.
Oh, I think you were asking. My bad.
No, you're the guest.
You're the guest. Your guest has
I will
honors.
quickly do this because I have been a little out of the loop. But I think the rankings do make sense. I've been watching a little bit of Miami. They've been sort of the quote-unquote surprise team.
Do you think they beat Clemson and finish undefeated and go to the playoff?
I think they've got a good shot to do it. I like what I've been seeing from the games that I've seen. So I think, just really quickly, I think that they can do it. My question is, are they going to be able to? Is this a home game or do they finish on?
Well, the championship game will be a neutral field, but it's in the Carolinas, so it's almost like a Clemson home game. Miami finishes with Pittsburgh on the road, so I mean, there's upset. Pittsburgh is always it was one of those weird teams. I would say they should roll over Pittsburgh. If you're looking at Clemson, their final game, if I could pull up the schedule here, Clemson's final game is at South Carolina. So they both have 2 road games on the road to finish up the year. I can't really see them either team getting upset. So as long as Clemson goes in 11-1, Miami's 11-0 into the ACC championship game, the winner will go to the playoff, and the loser, in my mind, is out with 2 losses. That's the way I see it. But or Miami out with 1 loss. Maybe you can make a case for them to get back in with only 1 loss. But I think the winner, as long as the ACC winner will get in, the loser likely out, especially if it's Clemson.
Yeah, I have to agree. Especially if it's Clemson. Clemson has no chance.
The only 2 losses I can see getting in, Mike, is Auburn, if they win the SEC. Because they would have beaten Bama and Georgia. Auburn gets in if they win the SEC. They absolutely get in.
And then they have to beat Georgia a second time, right?
Yes, they will. And that to me is ultimate consideration because Georgia's ranked number 7 right now.
So then what happens if Auburn beats Bama
Do you put Bama in?
And then loses to Georgia? Then Georgia is the SEC.
I think you put Georgia in because they're a 1-loss champion.
But then Bama's a 1-loss team.
But you see that's where it comes. That I think the SEC winner is going to get in.
No matter what, the SEC winner's in.
Yeah, the SEC winner.
No matter what, I'm telling you, Oklahoma's in. No matter what, I think.
Well, they have to beat TCU in the Big 12 championship.
They're going to beat TCU.
Well, it's a rematch, Mike. I remember they're playing them. They're playing them for the second time. I think they're going to win it too.
The Oklahoma, I think, is in no matter what. We know for a fact the ACC winner is going to be in, and the SEC's winner is going to be in. It's all going to come down
Big 10
to
and
the
the Pac-12.
spot. The real question is, if Wisconsin wins out, because even if Ohio State wins the Big 10 championship, they're out. They have 2 losses.
I would not rule that out because if they beat Michigan and then I know Michigan's not that good this year, but it's still a big game. And then if they beat an undefeated Wisconsin team, I think Ohio State can get in if somebody else drops out, namely Oklahoma.
Yeah, but okay, what happens if Clemson beats Miami? Miami has 1 loss. Do you put in a 1-loss Miami or a 2-loss Ohio State?
I'm inclined to put it in a 1-loss Miami team.
That's why I'm saying the only way I think the Big Ten is represented is if Wisconsin wins out, and they have a I don't think they could.
I think they will. Honestly, I think Wisconsin's going to win.
If they win 28-27 against Ohio State in the Big Ten championship, I don't think that'll be enough for them. I think they have to go out and win by like 10 points.
I understand that. I think they need to have a clear. I understand that point, but I think if you're Wisconsin, excuse me, and you finish 13-0, you win the Big Ten, even if you beat an Ohio State team only by a point, you can't keep them out.
Yeah,
because everybody else is going to have 1 loss at this point. There's only 2 other teams that have a chance to finish as a conference champion undefeated: Bama and Miami.
Yeah.
So if all 3 of them win their conference undefeated, you have Bama, Miami, Wisconsin all undefeated, and then you have to decide to put in a 1-loss team in. Actually, no. I think it would all come down if it actually came down to that. If they all finish, I'm going to pull up these rankings. I'm going to pull up the AP rankings because they have the updated records on them. If you have all 3 of those teams finish undefeated, so let's say Bama 1, Miami 2, Wisconsin 3, and they're all 13-0. Actually, Miami would technically be 12-0 as they had to cancel a game due to the hurricane. Then you have to say that 4th spot's either going to be a 1-loss Big 12 champion in Oklahoma, but if they lose, then it's a crapshoot at this point. Because then you have a bunch of 2-loss teams.
Well, listen. This is what I think the likeliest scenario is. Let's just try to deconstruct it from this.
Let's do likeliest scenario then.
Likeliest scenario: Alabama beats Auburn. Alabama beats Georgia.
They're in 13-0. Yeah, absolutely.
Likeliest scenario: Clemson beats. Okay, let's like a scenario. That's SEC. Likeliest scenario: Oklahoma wins out.
They win the Big 12. They're 12.
They're
12-1. They're in.
So you have a clear SEC. You have a clear
Big 12. Yep.
Most likely scenario in the Big 10: Ohio State beats Wisconsin.
So they're going to be 11-2 if they
11-2 Big 10 champion, right?
Yep.
They're not in yet. We know 2 are in, but you have a big 11-2 Big 10 champion Ohio State.
Okay.
Most likely scenario: ACC champion. I'm not sure it's going to be, but If Clemson loses, they're definitely out. They have 2 losses.
Well, the winner's in. The winner for
winner's
ACC is in.
Miami
May have 1 spot left.
Everyone lost. So, I think honestly, what do you think is more likely? Because we're doing a likely scenario, Miami or Clemson wins in the Big Ten.
I think Miami's going to win.
I mean ACC.
I think Miami's going to win.
Okay, so likely scenario, Alabama. Likeliest for SEC. Likely scenario for ACC is Miami.
They're
Clemson,
1 and 2.
Clemson's out.
Oklahoma 3 with the Big 12 champion.
Oh,
so now you have 1 spot left with a Big 10 champion. Do you take a
Big Ten champion with 2 losses,
a Georgia team with 2 losses,
a Georgia team with 2 losses,
or the Pac-12 champion? If it's USC.
And honestly, at that point, I think you have to go Ohio State. So
see, you just put my point right there. Ohio State's
Who had the strongest strength schedule?
USC has struggled this year. I wouldn't say they would get in unless a lot of things happen. Notre Dame, I think Notre Dame's done too. They don't have a conference championship. Auburn would be out with 3 losses. Georgia, you could make the argument. So basically, down to our scenario, it would be down between a 11-2 Georgia team, an 11-2 Ohio State team who won the Big Ten. Let's just say a 11-2 Pac-12 champion USC, and a 12-1 Wisconsin team who lost the Big Ten championship game. But they'd be out. They'd be out. It's probably gonna be Ohio State if they win the Big. Looks like we just figured it out. Mike, I think we just figured it out. Bama, Miami, Oklahoma, Ohio State. We just figured out our top 4 just like that. Just like that. All right, we're gonna switch over to the NFL now. In the last 10 minutes we have here. And Julian, I don't know, did you watch a lot of NFL this weekend?
I did, of
course.
course.
Of course you did.
All the time.
Did you watch the whole game? Did you watch the whole game last night?
I watched the first half.
It was sloppy, wasn't it? We were talking about it at the beginning of the show. It was a sloppy first half. I was getting worried for the Eagles there. It was a bad first half.
But yeah, it's been a very eventful year for the Eagles. I know a lot of Eagles fans are happy. I know you're very happy.
I am extremely happy.
Carson Wentz.
I love to be 9-1.
Carson Wentz just looks.
Is he the MVP right now?
Yes, for me, yes. I think he's done a remarkable job.
Over Tom Brady.
Yeah, I think because I'll tell you why. Because you're coming into this is his 3rd year, I believe. Second year. Excuse me. So he's coming in, taking over an offense. He's still relatively new, and he's just really you want to see the 2nd-year quarterbacks make a jump, make that leap,
right?
And he's done that, and plus more. And what I love about it is that he's just literally like taking the definition of carrying the team and sort of brought this new face or this new identity to the team.
Right.
You know, and there's so much chemistry going on right now, and you gotta love it. You really gotta love it.
Yeah, no, I love the guy. I have his jersey. I plan on getting a white one for Christmas now. So I love Carson Wentz. I'm a huge Eagles fan, as our small audience well knows that I'm a huge Eagles fan. But I like to be realistic. They've broken my heart many times in the past. The 9-1 best record in the NFL. I still, bias aside, I think they are the best team in the NFL because they showed last night they could play so bad in that first half offensively and still have a great defense. And then all of a sudden they turn on the Jets in the second half and boom, 30-0 second half. They show what they could do when they run the football. And when they run the football, Julian and Mike, they control the game. And then Wentz didn't even throw for 200 yards last night, but he threw 2 touchdowns. He made some nice throws in the second half after he struggled mightily for most of the first half. But the run game brought it back. Jay Ajayi, who's been what a trade, by the way, by Howie Roseman. 4th-round pick for him. I'll take that all day. Jay Ajayi, LeGarrette Blount, Corey Clement, who I laminated for in April for the Eagles to draft. I don't know if you remember this, but I told you over and over and over again they need to draft Corey Clement. They didn't, and they signed him as an undrafted free agent. And I'm pretty sure I told you directly. I said he's going to make the team. He will make the 53-man roster, and sure enough, he leads the team in touchdowns this year. He's got 7. Yeah. The kid is unbelievable. And we saw him play here when Wisconsin came here to Rutgers, and then he torched them.
I just think that there's always been that a new player to step up each week. I feel if somebody's lacking,
it's somebody different every week.
Lacking on one department, there's somebody else that Wentz can go to, whether it be Wentz himself, Ajayi now, Clement. You mentioned Zach Ertz has been unbelievable.
He was quiet last night too.
He's been unbelievable this year though, and he's been a huge part of that offense. Alshon Jeffrey has been sort of stepping it up the last couple of games.
He made a nice catch last night. You saw that, right, Mike? You did that. Was a nice catch by Alshon Jeffrey.
What I think is important to note about the Eagles is that the offense finally looks integrated. I talked about this earlier in the year that they have a running back. He could do some things. At that point, it's just LeGarrette Blount. They have this receiver. He could be really good, but no one knows actually what he could be in this offense.
Right.
They have a bunch of talent here. And what this offense has done in the last, I would say, 6 weeks, is make the pieces fit. They had the pieces there. You know the shapes were going to be kind of impressive, but you really didn't know what the final form was going to be and how it was all going to work together. And Peterson has done a wonderful job over the last 6 weeks or so of putting them all together and figuring out what they're going to be first, right? This is what Jeffrey's going to do. This is what Ajayi now is going to do. This is what they're going to feature in our offense, and this is how our offense is going to go change that and affect that. And they've done that completely.
So what I want to finish with here as we wrap up the NFL, Julian, I know
and Ronald Darby's awesome. I mean, they
first game back from week 1.
I really, I do not like Chris Collinsworth.
I don't either. I was complaining about him last night on the broadcast.
Although he's better than Jim Nance. Anyway.
Mike. We're not getting this argument again. No. That's an analyst to a play-by-play guy. We're not getting this again. We can't do this.
Well, Tony Romo makes everyone look like.
So Chris Collinsworth made this great point last night that the Eagles' defense could win in multiple ways. The offense is multifaceted. The offense could do multiple things. This defense could also do multiple things.
They can.
They have a selection of pass rusher,
and they're without Jordan Hicks. Their best linebacker.
They have a selection of pass rusher, and on top of that, they have a very strong secondary. You have Jenkins, you have Darby, you have members in the secondary that could play man coverage, and that is even more important because now you have pass rushers that you could tell them, okay, go downfield and try to make a play, rush upfield and try to make a play.
Right.
You could tell them that now because you have people in the back end that could cover in man. That is the most, I think, important combination of defense: man coverage and speed on the outside rush. And they don't have tons of speed on the outside rush, but they have enough pass rushing ability where you let your secondary play man. You're going to get sacks. You're going to generate sacks
without a doubt. And all right, so I'll leave you here with this: that there seems to be. Now, it seemed early on in the season that there was not really any team that made the jump off the page to make them the best in the NFL, and you're saying, all right, these are the teams that are going to be in the end. In the AFC, to me, it's Pittsburgh, it's New England and Pittsburgh. I really can't put anybody else in there. I don't know if you can, Julian. Is there anybody else in the AFC that really can just be that third team in contention with those two?
Kansas City, probably.
Maybe, they've lost 4 in a row. They don't look good right now. I think they'll get it together, but it's got to be New England and Pittsburgh. I can't see anybody else.
It's a legit contender, I guess.
Yeah, okay. I would say New England and Pittsburgh. NFC now, it's still wide open. I know the Eagles have established themselves as arguably the best team in the NFL, but the Saints, I'm scared of the Saints. 8 wins in a row. They won that game somehow yesterday against the Redskins at home. They're 8-2. The Vikings have a ridiculous defense, and Case Keenum's playing out of his mind right now somehow. Vikings are 8-2.
I'm telling you, this Vikings team, Mike Zimmer,
what a coach.
He is.
He's a football guy.
For me, he's a top 3 coach in this league because there's with all the injuries.
You're winning with defense and Case Keenum.
Yeah,
and without Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, I mean it is amazing because I have not thought about my Minnesota. I don't think of them as a very good team. And then this weekend, I just thought to myself,
"Wow,
wow!"
And they beat the Rams.
If they,
were a good team this year.
You know what? The Minnesota Vikings are a better version, are a better NFC version of the Houston Texans. Great talent all around the roster.
I'd say so.
A coach that
makes sense.
But an incomplete roster, but great talent all around, and a coaching staff that is able to compensate a bit.
Without a doubt, my teams in the NFC right now, obviously the Eagles, the Saints, the Vikings, all 9-1, 8-2. The Rams are 7-3. They're still.
I'm so happy no more Seahawks.
And the Seahawks, I wouldn't count them out. They play tonight. I think they're going to.
Cam Chancellor might be done.
That's true. The secondary is battered without Cam Chancellor and Richard Sherman. They're going to beat Atlanta tonight. Atlanta's not good right now. Your teams in the NFC are the Eagles, the Saints, the Vikings. I throw the Rams in there. They're still good. Jared Goff looks like a new man this year.
When it comes to the playoff time, they're not going to be.
You never know. And you just never know. Right now, your top 3 teams are the Eagles, Saints, and Vikings right now. And then the Seahawks, I would never count out because they're a good team come playoff time. Panthers scare me a little bit just because you don't know what you're getting out of them. You don't know what you're getting out of them. Who are your big teams in the NFC, Julian, before we sign off here?
No, I pretty much agree with you there. Panthers were going to be one team that I could probably see kind of sneak in, maybe do something, but we'll see.
I mean, they're 7-3 right now. Do you think so if you had to pick a Super Bowl, or at least let's pick your Final Four right now. AFC, it's New England, Pittsburgh for me. NFC, I'm going to pick Philly and New Orleans. I love Minnesota. and I know my dad knows I like Minnesota. My dad's a huge Vikings fan, but I think New Orleans is slightly better. I know Minnesota beat them earlier in the first game of the season, but that was with Bradford, and the Saints were struggling.
Minnesota's new stadium is an indoor stadium.
It is, so it helps out.
It's not going to matter. So, like, if the Saints had a
they host the Super Bowl this year. Can you imagine the Vikings go to the Super Bowl? They'll play at home.
Yeah, that's
never happened before. I think the Eagles and the Saints are the teams that beat right now in the NFC. The Vikings very close on their side right there.
I agree with your top four. I have to say, though, I think Patriots.
Still a team.
Patriots Saints Super Bowl.
If you had to pick a Super Bowl, Mike, you're picking Patriots Saints right now.
Yes,
Julian Super Bowl right now.
You keep stealing my picks. No, I think that's a pretty good bet. I would love to see the Eagles though. It'd be fun.
Me too. I think I would love to see the Eagles too. If I had to pick right now, I'll throw my own team in there. I'll go Eagles Pats rematch Super Bowl 39 back in 2004. Do you have something else, Mike?
No, that's it.
That's it? Okay. All right, well, that's going to do it for us. Thank you, Julian, for coming in. We appreciate you coming in, and always good to see you.
Thank you for having me. I look forward to the next time.
Of course. All right, that is going to do it for us today. For Julian Jimenez, Mike Antosiewicz, I am Nick Kosko saying so long. You've been listening to The Opening Drive. Make sure to tune in every Monday from 8 to 9 a.m. here on 88.7. Stay tuned for further programming here on 88.7 WRSU FM and online at WRSU.org.
Talk